जय बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवारधारी यशोधनन्दन व्रजनरञ्जन यमुनातीर वनचारी यमुनातीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गोविंद राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा जय गौरानिता जय गौरानिता निताय गौर हरि बोल जय 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 प्रभुपाद की जय. Who is Anamika Singh? First time I'm seeing you in this group. Yes. Have you taken admission?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Tanvat Pranam.
Have you taken admission for this Bhakti Shastri?
Yes, Mataji, I have. Prabhuji has registered from my side. Hari Chaitanya Prabhuji.
Okay. So Hari Chaitanya Prabhu is the student or you are the student?
He is student right now. He is taking classes of yours.
So he is taking classes. So you're attending on his behalf.
No, he is taking your classes. So he just told me about this. So I told him half an hour before that I want to. So Prabhuji has shared a link and said ki.
Who is the student? Yourself or he in this Bhakti
Sorry,
Shastri?
sorry,
Who is the
Mataji.
student? Hari Chaitanya Prabhu is the student or you are the student?
I am. Today is
But he has
first
not
day.
mentioned. He has not mentioned that. He has mentioned his name. Hari Chaitanya Prabhu wants to
Acha.
attend Bhakti Shastri.
Acha. So then I will register. Then I can.
You have to register. That there is a proper way of attending the class, na? You have to
Okay, Mataji.
register, because how are we going to give certificate? Because it's a certified course. Satsang program, everyone is allowed. But if it is
Yes.
a certified course, then we find it difficult. Because suddenly Anamika Singh, who is Anamika Singh, Hari Chaitanya Prabhu has registered and he has paid the fees. So naturally his name will appear in the Bhakti Shastri if he is attending
Okay.
with some attendance. Now you have never attended any of the classes, na?
So
Okay.
I will register. Then I will join. If
Yeah,
Hare
you
Krishna,
register,
Mataji.
you will join. Provided, yes, yes, Prabhuji, Hari Chaitanya
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. I wrote to you on WhatsApp, Mataji. She wanted to join this class, and the other formalities she will do it tomorrow. So
Okay, no problem.
can
Other
she
formalities,
join
everything
the
you do
class?
tomorrow. And regarding the first unit, 75% attendance, once she does it in the next year, some part which is missing in the first unit, and that time she will get the, no problem. Okay, tomorrow you can do all the
So from
formalities.
today, she will.
Today you can attend the class. Okay, where were we?
We have to start from 40th shloka, Mataji.
40th shloka.
Yes.
So, but meantime, Anamika's Mataji, you hear all the classes, get all the recordings, hear the classes. Okay, 40th. We did 39th verse. We did 39th verse. Yeah. Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatparah sayyatendriyah jnanam labdha param shantim achirenadi gacchati. Now, three things are required for getting the knowledge. First is Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. Then is Tatparaha. One should be attached to the process. And the third is Sayyatendriyaha, controlling of the senses. If these three things are there, then he will attain knowledge, and because of this transcendental knowledge, he will attain peace. So three aspects has been given. Shraddhaman labate jnanam, tatparaha sayyatendriya. Remember these three things. Tatparaha. Tatparaha means very much attached to the process. Faith is there, that is what attachment is there. And then when your attachment to the spiritual knowledge is there, automatically the senses are controlled. That means the senses are utilized in serving Krishna. Okay. That is why you can attain peace. Now, who will never attain peace? 40th verse. Hey, I think that's not, where did I teach this verse? You are also confused. I
was confused. It is 40th.
3.40 and I went to 4.40. I was thinking, where did I see?
Even I was wondering why it is. Something else is saying.
3.40. 39th, 39th verse, we spoke about how, in 38th verse, we spoke about the degrees of lust, the various degrees of lust. The degree of lust which is covering the consciousness in a human being, it is thin. And degree of lust which is covering the consciousness of an animal is thinner. It is thicker, so thicker. And then that is the thickest in the trees. So avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya vairina. So this is nitya vairi, lust is the nitya vairi. Kama rupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. In this way, the lust is never satisfied. It is like a burning fire. You go on adding more desires, it will burn more violently. Now 40th verse. Third chapter, 40th verse. Indriyani mano buddhe asyadhisthana uchyate ete vimohayatyesha jnanamavritta dehinam. Indriyani mano buddhe asyadhisthana uchyate eteir vimohayatyesha Jnanam avritya dehinam. So read along with me. Indriyani mano buddhir. Indriyani mano buddhir. Asyadhishtanumuchyate. Asyadhishtanumuchyate. Eteirvimohayatyesha. Eteirvimohayatyesha. Jnanam avritya dehinam. Jnanam avritya dehinam. So where is this lust seated? Lust is enemy, wonderful. But where is this seated? Where are the sitting places? What are the strategic points where I can find this enemy and shoot at him? I should know now where is this enemy. This enemy lust is seated in 3 places: senses, mind, intelligence. So if this enemy is situated at the level of senses, it is very easy to remove it out. How? Out of sight, then out of the senses. The eyes are seeing pani puri, that is why pani puri it is crying. You remove the pani puri outside. No pani puris. Now, if the same lust is there at the level of mind, then also out of sight, out of mind. There also it is easy. But if it is there at the level of intelligence, you cannot do anything with it. Because intelligence is the discriminating factor. It is a discriminating force or ability, you can say, which decides what to do, what not to do. If at the level of senses there is lust, it is easy to remove. Even at the level of mind also it is easy, but at the level of intelligence, very difficult to come out. That is why intelligence which guides the mind guides the senses. It should not go other way around. Senses are controlling the mind and the mind is controlling the intelligence. No, let the intelligence guide the mind. So it is said here, vimohati, eter vimohayatyeshaha, jnanam avritya dehinam. That is how the knowledge is covered. In these 3 places, the lust is seated. Lust is seated. Like you're going to pay some bills or you're going to the passport office. Now everywhere TV is put, isn't it? Everywhere TV cameras are there. And you have cricket match which is going on. You do not go to see their cricket match. Somehow it happened that you saw the cricket match. Okay, now you should go and do your work when you are called. So at the level of senses, it happened. You just saw it. It happened. So it is easy because you are engaged now, engaging your senses in a higher activity for which you have come. So at the level of senses, the lust went off. But if you're taking, if you're dragging the same thought at the level of mind, then you'll come and see in the house also. Then what will happen? For the work which you have gone, that is accomplished, but then you have to do some other work. You forgot that. You are more interested, India is winning or Pakistan is winning or America is winning, whatever it is. So you are coming and seeing at home and you forgot to do a higher task, something better task for that which bigger responsibility. You forgot that. Why? You stopped your intelligence to guide the mind. And at the level of intelligence, if it is there, then no hope, because intelligence is the next door neighbor of the soul. It is at the level of intelligence, one becomes Krishna consciousness. There is no hope if a person fits this lust at the level of intelligence. Then there is no hope for that person. Even at the level of mind, you can control. But at the level of intelligence, no hope. Okay. So Jai Shri Mataji, read the words, read the purport.
Hare Krishna. Indriyani mano buddhir asyadishtanumuchyate etair vimohayatyesha jnanamavritya dehinam. Translation: the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Purport: The enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul, and therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. Mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, and thus, when we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. And as a result, the mind and the senses become the repositories of lust. Next, the intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lust intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and senses. The spirit of soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this is the true happiness. This false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam
Today
10.8.
in the morning we were discussing this verse in Chaitanya Bhagavat. 3 types of people are known as donkeys. Donkeys. And in one place it is said also, go, that means cow. Because cow also cannot decide what to do, what not to do. Whatever you give, the cow has to take. If you give plastics, the cow will eat plastics. If you give grass, the cow eats grass. What to do? If you put something out, nowadays you can see the cow taking anything from the garbages. Cow doesn't have its own intelligence. Though cow's milk raises one's intelligence, but cow on its own cannot decide what is good, what is bad. So 3 types of people. Yasyatma buddhi gunapetridhatuke swadhi kalatradishu bhauma ijjadihi yatirtha buddhi salinena karhiche dajanesha vignesha saiva gokharaha. This topic today in Chaitanya Bhagavat, where Nityananda Prabhu says, oh Lord, I have been traveling in all the holy places, but somehow I did not find Krishna anywhere. I found Krishna in Navdeep Dham. Everywhere I found everything is empty. So in one place it is said that if you go to yatras, we should go along with our spiritual master and our guiding authorities. Because if we don't go for discussing the topics of Krishna, what is the use of going to the holy places? It is a work of a donkey. So 3 types of people. First is yasyatma buddhi kudapetra dhatuke. If a person is identifying himself with the body, this body is made up of 3, there is kapha, vata, pitta. And if a person is identifying with kapha, vata, pitta, if he is identifying himself with the body, that person is a donkey. And if a person is identifying and considering his birthplace to be the top, no, Hari Bol. 1 second. Unknown person has come. 1 second. And Swadhi Kalatradishu Bhauma Ijjadihi. If he considers the place of worship, a place of his birthplace to be the worshipable place, what it matters wherever you are born. And if he thinks that is a worshipable place, that person is a donkey. And then what is the use of going to Tirth Yatras if he is not interested in hearing about Krishna? Because when we go to Tirth Yatras, we should know the mood of the deities over there. Like you are going to Udupi, you don't know the mood of the deity over there. You are going to Tirupati, you don't know the mood of the deity over there. What is the use of going? The purpose of going to Tirth Yatra is to know the mood of the deities and to know the devotee because of whom the Lord has appeared over there. Now you go to Pandharpur, you don't discuss about Pundalik. What is the use? You go to Udupi Kshetra and you are not discussing about Madhvacharya. What is the use? You are going to Tirupati and you are not discussing about Anantalvar. What is this? How many people have really visited Anantalvar's garden? They go Goinda, Goinda and come back. Why Lord has white over there? Nobody is interested. Why there is a crowbar which is, nobody even bothered to see there is a crowbar. There is a crowbar over there. There is Anantalvar garden. It is said your visit to Tirupati is complete only when you visit Anantalvar's garden. If you have missed Anantalvar's garden, then your visit to Tirupati is incomplete. How many of us really know that?
Yeah.
So that I don't know. So we'll go for yatra. We'll go for yatra. We should go for yatra when we have the discussion about the pastimes of the devotee and the Lord over there. Janesha Vigyesha Saiva Okharaha. So false identification of the spirit soul, identifying ourselves with the body. So if the intelligence is contaminated, at the level of intelligence, one has a discriminating force or discriminating ability which guides the mind, and the mind indirectly guides the senses. It should not happen other way around. Okay. Tasmatvam indriyanyadro. Tasmatvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Tasmatvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Now read along with me. Tasmatvam indriyanyado. Tasmatvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarshava niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam papmanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, Krishna says, there. From the very beginning itself, Adau, from the very beginning itself, curb the senses or regulate the senses. Why Prabhupada has introduced 4 regulative principles? Somebody asked Prabhupada, if you introduce like this, who is going to come to ISKCON? Prabhupada said, I have not started a fish market. I have opened a diamond market. Those who value, they will come. We don't want the people to drink cigars and come. We don't want people to not follow the instructions and come. And even if they come, they start taking association, they have to follow the principles if they have to progress in devotional service. Side by side, you cannot have both the things happening. So from the very beginning itself, curb the senses. How? Niyamya, by following the regulative principles. Papmanam, prajati henam, papmanam. So this is the greatest symbol of sin. What is that greatest symbol of sin? That is lust. That is lust. Take a seat. Okay. And I spoke in Tamil now. You know that? Okarungo means sit down. A very old devotee from Gopinath temple have come here. They are very old friends. We used to be together 1994, 1995, we used to be together. After a long time, maybe 30 years, we are meeting. Papmanam prajahi yenam. So this is the greatest symbol of sin, Krishna says. That is why regulate the senses. And slay this knowledge. How to regulate the senses? Not by our own endeavor. It's not impossible. Only when we have knowledge. Only by the sword of knowledge. Destroyer and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Anyhow, it is going to come. How to slay this sin or slay this enemy? Because this enemy is destroying our knowledge. This enemy is destroying our self-realization. So that is why only with the weapon of knowledge we can slay this sin. So for that, what a person has to do? He has to follow the 4 regulative principles right from the beginning. Tasmatam indriyan yadav. Adav means right from the beginning. Krishna says, Niyamyaha bharatarshava. Follow the regulative principles. Because this sin, this greatest enemy, papmanam, prajahi henam, jnana vijnanam nashanam. So this enemy, this nitya vairinam, is destroying our knowledge. It is destroying our self-realization also. See, jnana vijnana is given. So what is jnana? Knowledge. What is vijnana? Application of this knowledge. And applied knowledge is self-realization. The knowledge is, okay, I'm not the body, I am soul. God is a controller of body and soul. What is application of knowledge? Utilizing everything in the service of Krishna. There's application of knowledge. Okay. Saurabh Prabhu, please read.
Tasmatvam indriyan adav niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jnanam parama bhuyam me yad vijnana samanvitam sa dahasyam tad angam cha grana gaditam maya. The knowledge of the self and the supreme self is very confidential and mysterious. But such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if
So one minute. Bhagavatam says, Jnanam paramaguhyam me yat vijnana samanvitam sarhasyam tad angam cha grahanam gaditam maya. Jnanam paramaguhyam me. This is the paramaguhyam. This is the most transcendental and most confidential also. This jnanam is not so easy to be understood. Even to understand, I'm not the body, I'm soul, it is not so easy. And on top of that, to understand that, let me take the class. And on top of that, to understand, Lord is the controller of body and soul, that is also not easy to understand. So this is guhyam, this is the most mystical knowledge. Yad vijnana samhitam. And yad vijnana samanvitam. To understand this, and attain self-realization is also very difficult. Sa rahasyam tadangam cha grahanam gaditam mataha. Krishna says such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with various aspects by the Lord himself. So Lord only has to explain how to apply this knowledge. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears to teach what he has instructed, to show the practical application of whatever he has instructed. Okay, read further.
The knowledge of the self and supreme self is very confidential and mysterious, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with various aspects by the Lord himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that general and specific knowledge of the self. The living entities are part and parcel of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates, nonetheless, consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So, from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life.
इंद्रियाणि पराण्याहुर् इन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिर् यो बुद्धे परतस्तु सः इंद्रियाणि पराण्याहुर् इन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिर् यो बुद्धे परतस्तु सः. So if we compare, this matter is dull. These indriyas, the senses, are dull, isn't it? So working senses, but the whole body is dull, but working senses are superior to dull matter. If you compare, everything is matter only. Everything is matter. The floor is a matter, which is dull matter. At least our senses are working, though this is also matter. But if you compare among the matters, earth, water, fire, fire. So at least the working senses are superior to the dull matter. Indriyani paranyahur. Indriyebhyaha param manaha. The superior to the senses are the mind. And superior to the mind is the intelligence. So in this way, it is said here, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and then soul is higher than the intelligence also. That means one has to work on different levels. One is controlling the senses, controlling the mind, controlling the intelligence, and having spirituality. That is spiritual life. So spiritual life is far better than everything else. It is most superior. Controlling the senses, very good, wonderful. But controlling the mind is more wonderful than the controlling the senses. And controlling the intelligence is more superior than controlling the mind. And then having the knowledge of our relationship with Krishna is the most wonderful aspect. That is how Krishna says here, Indriyani paya pranyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. Okay. Bhakti shastri. Bhakti shastri. Okay. Goloka read.
Hare Krishna. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddhehe paratastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter, mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. These outlets are not in use when there is superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the hierarchy of bodily functions are described here. Ultimately ends in the Supreme Soul. Bodily action means the functions of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all bodily actions. But since the mind is active, then even though the body may be silent and at rest, the mind will act as it does during dreaming. But above the mind is the determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If, therefore, the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind, and senses, will be automatically engaged. In the Katha Upanishad, There is a similar passage in which it is said that the object of sense gratification are superior to the senses and mind is superior to the sense objects. If therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance that the senses will become engaged in other ways. This mental attitude has already been explained. Param dritsva nivartate. If the mind is engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no chance of its being engaged in the lower propensities. In the Katha Upanishad, the soul has been described as Mahan, the great. Therefore, the soul is above all, namely the sense objects, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of the senses, but aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness by complete surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong, like serpents, there will be no more effective than serpents with broken fangs. But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind, the senses also still, unless it is strengthened by association with Krishna in Krishna consciousness, there is every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind.
So param drishtva nivartate. Very important verses. Param drishtva nivartate. Engage your mind in transcendental service. If you give higher engagement, automatically the lower engagement goes away. Okay. Next. Evam buddhe param buddha samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Evam buddhe param buddha संस्तभ्यात्मानमात्मना जहि शत्रुं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुरासदम्. एवं बुद्धे परम बुद्ध्वा संस्तभ्यात्मानम् आत्मना. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, intelligence, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy. So, previous verse we are talking about the material strength or the strength of our body. More than the strength of the body is the strength of the mind. More than that is intellectual strength, and more than that is spiritual strength. So one may be very, very bodily built, nice, healthy body, but at the level of mind, he is weak. What will happen? Though he is very strong, but he is weak in mind. Then even if a small disturbance is there in his life, he may commit suicide also. And there is no intellectual strength, then the guiding force is also gone. And among everything, spiritual strength is the topmost. If you have spiritual strength, then even if you are weak by your body, it doesn't matter. Now, Haridas Thakur, Madhvendra Puri, they did not eat a lot. Their body was very weak, but they had spiritual strength. Spiritual strength surpasses everything. So that is why it is said here, with your spiritual strength, evam buddhe, which is superior to the intelligence. So with your spiritual strength, you control your mind. Now you can control your mind with your intelligence, but the spiritual strength can control the senses, can control the mind, can control the intelligence also. That is why grow spiritually. Steady your mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence and in this way control the lust. Because lust is seated in these three places: senses, mind, intelligence. So how to conquer? Just by one's spiritual strength. And spiritual strength is gained by more service in spiritual life. Advancing in devotional service, doing Shastra Adhyan, serving the Shastras, serving the Bhakta Bhagavad, Grantha Bhagavad. So in this way, if a person gets the shelter of Guru, Vaishnavas, then automatically spiritual strength raises. And by one's spiritual strength, one can conquer this lust which is seated in these three places. Okay, that has been given. Evam buddhe param buddhva. No. Buddhva here refers to know. What to know? That the mind can be studied, or the intelligence also can be studied. Mind can be studied by deliberate intelligence. But then, how to conquer this lust completely? Just by our spiritual strength. That is known as Atmana, deliberate intelligence. This deliberate intelligence refers to Atmana. Deliberate intelligence. What is the meaning? The intelligence which has been employed in Krishna consciousness. That is known as deliberate intelligence. Okay. Shilpa, Mataji, read.
एवं बुद्धे परं बुद्ध्वा संस्तभ्यात्मानमात्मना जहि शत्रुं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुरसदम्. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, that is Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Purport. The third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directive to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without considering impersonal voidness the ultimate end. In the material existence of life, one is certainly influenced by propensities for lust and desire for dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overloading and for sense gratification is the greatest enemy of the conditioned soul. But by the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control the material senses, the mind and the intelligence. One may not give up work and prescribed duties all of a sudden, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind by steady intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses by the so-called practice of yogic postures can never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. Hare Krishna.
Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Karma Yoga, or the discharge of one's prescribed duty in Krishna consciousness. The third chapter is Karma Yoga. So, a small recap of what we have done in this third chapter, and then any questions you can ask. So, third chapter started with doubt because of the confusion in understanding 2.47, 2.49, right? And there Arjuna says, Tadekam vada nishchityaha yena shreyo hamapriya. Tell one thing, definitely. One thing. That should be one thing which is Shreyas. Then we compared this to 5.2 also, 5.1 also, 2.7, 3.2 and 5.1 we compared. Then in the third verse, Krishna is speaking about how a person thinks Jnana Yoga and Sankhya Yoga. Jnana Yoga, that is Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, that is Buddhi Yoga, to be different, right? And then we saw that just by abstaining from the above, it's not necessary that he doesn't have any reactions. Then everybody has to forcibly act because of the qualities what he has acquired. Then even if he's trying to restrain his senses, but the lust is there at the level of mind, he's a pretender. And in this way, Krishna says, perform your duties. One has to keep his body and soul together. Work done for Vishnu does not bind a person. 9th verse speaks. Then how in the 10th verse Krishna speaks about how the whole process of sacrifice started. There is a parasparam bhavam in the 11th verse. If a person does not give to Krishna, to the demigods, here Krishna speaks starting with the demigods, then he is a thief. And slowly Krishna introduces that santaha, the devotion, in the 13th verse. And in the 14th verse, that how everything is dependent on yajna, yajna is dependent on one's karma, and the karma is there in the Vedas. Vedas speak about the prescribed duties. Then who doesn't follow these principles, they are leading the life of sin, that also is given. And again, the 17th verse is going to confuse Arjuna, because of which the 5th chapter starts, where clearly it has been said, one who takes pleasure in the self does not have any duties. And Krishna says, actually, I don't have any duty, but still I perform. Why? Yedadachariti shreshtas. 21st verse, Krishna says that. And Krishna says, I don't have any duty, but I have to show. If I don't prescribe, if I don't follow, then all the people also will stop performing their duties. Then the whole world will be put into ruination. But don't disturb ignorant people. Krishna clearly says, don't disturb the minds of ignorant people. Then who is the doer? 27th verse. The soul tells, I am the doer. The body says, no, I am the doer. God says, I am the doer. 3 are doers when everything is wonderful. 3 are non-doers when they don't want to take any responsibility. And then we say that who is a tattvavitu, who is a intelligent person who knows what is the difference between work in devotion, work for fruitive results. Then if you see the 30th verse, which is the Gita Sar, the essence of Gita, Krishna very clearly says, do all the work for me without having any desire for profit, without having any ownership. Do not become lethargic. Then whatever injunctions I have given, just follow it without enviousness. And whoever disregards the teachings given by Lord, they can never attain any perfection. And 33rd verse, which is again misunderstood, highly misunderstood verse. Everybody has acquired the nature. Then he will do whatever he has acquired. Where can artificial repression accomplish? That is why it is not artificially controlling the senses, engaging in a better task. There's a lot of difference between controlling the senses by Ashtanga Yoga and engaging the senses in spirituality. If you give higher engagement, param drishtva nivartate, then automatically the senses are controlled. So there are principles governing the senses, but one should not become very attached to the principles, nor averse the principles. And the two, if they become the stumbling blocks in the path of self-realization, that also we saw. So better do one's own duty rather than follow somebody else's duty. Now Arjuna is asking, where is this lust? Krishna says, what is that enemy? Why a person does a work even though he doesn't want to do? Why is he engaged in a sinful activity by force? What is the thing which is forcing him to perform the sinful activity? The answer is Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna Samudbhava, Mahashano Mahapapa Vidyanam Iha Vairinam. This is the lust, which is the enemy. And the degrees of lust in different types of body has been given. And then here, the senses, where is this lust situated? At 3 levels: sense, mind, and senses, mind, and intelligence. So very beginning itself, try to regulate the senses, Krishna says, and have spiritual strength. Other all strength are okay, but spiritual, by the spiritual strength, one can conquer the senses, conquer the lust at the level of senses, at the level of mind, at the level of intelligence. That is why grow in spiritual strength. The next chapter will be Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Sorry, it's Karma Yoga, na? Jnana Karma Yoga. Jnana Karma Yoga. Jnana Vijnana will come later. Jnana Karma Yoga. That means perform your activity with complete knowledge. Then only one will not become dependent on the fruitive results. Karma is done for Krishna. When you are performing karma, you employ the senses. But once you come to know that yes, this matter also belongs to Krishna, then that is knowledge. Perform the activity with knowledge. Okay, there is Jnana Karma Yoga. Then fifth chapter will be Jnana Karma Sannyas Yoga. Step by step. But perform with knowledge and then perform for spiritual understanding. Okay. Any doubts regarding this? No doubts. Fourth chapter will start. Most probably it will be next week. Yeah.
In the 37th verse, Lord Krishna says that it is lust only. He answers that question, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion. So how do we understand that? Born with the material mode of passion.
Passion arises lust. And the passion's degraded form is tamas. What is tamas? The advanced form of passion. Lust is not born out of satoguna. It is born out of passion. Passion has the desire. And there are multiple desires. That is the characteristics of passion. Characteristics of satoguna is what? To have knowledge, to live a life without sin. And yet it is going to come. What are the characteristics of satoguna person? What are the characteristics of rajasic, tamasic? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. No doubt. Friday, I will let you know. Huh? Yes.
If someone is performing his or her duties in the mode of passion, like if a Kshatriya is working in the mode of passion, then
But he
will
is
he not be
driven by
affected?
mode of goodness also. Kshatriya is one who is driven by mode of goodness. Though passion has to be employed. It's not that passion you put it in the dustbin. No. Passion has to be employed. But see, when you compare Shivaji and Aurangzeb, why you say Shivaji is a Kshatriya? Because that passion is driven by mode of goodness. Why Krishna did not allow Duryodhana to fight? He went as a peace messenger. On the contrary, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you fight. So Satoguna is the place where it is where dharma is established. But if you have tamas, it is driven by tamas, then that is to be stopped. Not all passion is bad. If passion is there, then only you can raise funds also. Na? You want to do fundraising, then passion also should be there. Anyone else? So Friday class, I will let you know. Mostly, I'll take Hindi class of Saturday on Friday. I'll let you know that there is a class. Patitanam Pavanam Vishnu Vishnu Vrinda ki Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.